Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into Dr. Sue Morter's world and her system, the energy codes. It's this really comprehensive framework that brings together New Age energy work, very specific body practices, and this idea of shifting your entire identity.
It really is. The promise is huge. Awaken your spirit, heal your body.
And for this deep dive, we have two very different, almost opposing sets of sources.
Right.
On one hand, we have all the promotional material, the books, the explanations of her seven-step system.
Yeah.
And on the other,
A lot of sharp critique. We're talking community discussions that label it pseudoscience and raise some pretty serious social and ethical concerns.
exactly. So our mission here is to really understand the mechanics of the energy codes from the inside out, while also giving a fair and impartial hearing to that powerful skepticism.
And at its core, Morter's work is all about a single goal. Identity transformation. It's not just about, feeling a little better. It's a total overhaul.
From what to what?
From a limited, what she calls a constrained self, to your soulful self. And the key word she uses over and over is embodiment.
Embodiment.
Yeah. It's about building new physical and energetic circuitry, so you're not just thinking these ideas, you are physically living them.
Okay, let's start right there. With the problem this is all meant to solve. She sets up this core split, these two identities inside us. How does she define them?
Well, Morter's whole argument is that all human suffering, and I mean all of it, comes from one single mistake.
Which is?
Believing that you are your physical body or your thinking mind. She says we are fundamentally pure energy, spirit.
And that mistake creates the ego.
It creates what she calls the protective personality, which is, basically the ego, or a false self. And its entire purpose is rooted in one thing: safety.
Okay, safety sounds good.
It does, but here's her big insight. Because the protecting personality is obsessed with safety, it's constantly seeking approval and love from the outside. And because it prioritizes safety above everything else, it actually stops you from getting what you really want. Things like real intimacy or a fulfilling career.
Right.
Because those things feel risky.
So the part of you that's trying to keep you safe is also the part that's sabotaging your happiness.
That's the idea.
And what's the alternative? The soulful self.
The soulful self is who you really are, according to the system. You're already whole, complete, made of love, operating from abundance. The entire point of the energy codes is to integrate that fearful, protective personality back into the soulful self.
Okay, wait. I'm a bit confused there. If the ego, this protective personality, is the source of all our problems, why would you want to integrate it? It sounds like you'd want to get rid of it.
That's a fantastic point, and it's something a lot of critics bring up.
It feels like a contradiction.
It does, but her answer is that the separation is just a perception. It's not the reality. She uses this coin analogy. Yeah, the protective personality is the back of the coin. It sees the world through fear. The soulful self is the front of the coin. It sees the world through love.
They're opposite sides, but still one coin.
Exactly. You can't have one without the other. The system is just designed to train you to always look at the world from the front side.
And that switch, from the back to the front, that's the quantum flip.
Yeah, that's the one. She calls it an instantaneous shift in perspective, moving from the ego's fear to the soul's love. But, she says, stabilizing that new identity happens in stages.
Okay, what are the stages?
Stage 1 is victimhood. That's pure survival mode. Life is just happening to you.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. Then stage 2 is self-help. This is where you know something's wrong and you're trying to fix it, but you're still focused on the problems, on what's broken.
And the goal is to get to stage 3.
Right. Stage 3 is creatorship. That's the front side view. Now, challenges aren't problems. They're opportunities that are serving your growth. You're not just reacting, you're co-creating your life.
But to stay there, you need that circuitry you mentioned.
You need to build new circuitry, new neural pathways, new energetic connections that let your mind actually perceive this reality of the soulful self consistently.
Which is where the 7 energy codes come in. They're the how-to for building that circuitry. Can we get into some of the core practices?
Absolutely. The codes are the roadmap. Code 1 is the anchor code. It's all about grounding your awareness back inside your physical body.
How?
Through specific physical practices, like engaging the root lock, which is a pelvic floor contraction, and activating the pineal gland at the crown of your head. These are meant to anchor energy along your central channel.
Okay, so it starts with a physical, grounded feeling. Then you move up to the heart.
Exactly. That's code 4, the heart code. Here, the idea is to use love, which she calls the universal solvent, to dissolve all those lower frequency emotions that come from the protective personality.
And code 5 is the breath code.
Yes. Using very specific, targeted breathing techniques, like the 7 chakra breaths, to awaken stuck energy. Respiration, she says, is literally the spirit in physical form.
And the other 4 codes, feeling, clearing, chemistry, and spirit, round out the whole system.
It's a full-body system.
All right, now we have to turn to the other side of this, the critical material. This is where things get really controversial.
Yeah, they do.
Critics say that even if this feels empowering, one of its core ideas leads to some really harmful social implications. How does Morter tell people to think about tragedy?
This all stems from what she calls the 5 energy codes truths, specifically the one that says everything that happens in your life is serving that purpose. Your life is Project Awakening.
Serving what purpose?
The expansion of your soul. The idea gets really detailed with something called the bus stop conversation.
The bus stop conversation.
The theory is that before we're born, our souls meet up at a sort of cosmic bus stop. There, we choose life things we want to learn, like forgiveness or courage, and we make soul contracts with other souls to play the roles needed for us to learn those lessons.
So, if I understand this correctly, from the soulful self's perspective, even a major trauma was chosen.
Wow.
Before birth.
That is the interpretation, yes. A debilitating accident, a severe illness, and assault. From this highest perspective, it was pre-designed to give your soul the exact experience it needed to expand. The event is always serving you.
I have to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because my immediate human reaction to that is just, wow, that's a shocking idea.
It is.
To suggest that something like, say, a sexual assault was chosen by the victim's soul feels like it completely dismisses real-world accountability. What are the red flags critics raise here?
Well, the biggest one is that this is a form of toxic positivity that leads directly to victim blaming.
Right.
It shifts the responsibility for a tragedy entirely away from a perpetrator or, a systemic issue and places it squarely on the victim's soul contract.
Which is incredibly invalidating.
Hugely. And there's also a socioeconomic critique. The sources point out that many who teach this manifesting outlook come from positions of privilege, and critics say they often overlook the financial safety nets or social supports that help them succeed, which makes the advice feel completely out of touch for someone facing, say, systemic poverty or injustice.
That makes a lot of sense. And it explains why we found so much debate, even people in these forums discussing whether this work has traits of a rising cult.
The concern is definitely there.
Okay, let's move from the social critique to the scientific one. What's the pushback on the energy concepts themselves?
The foundational pushback is actually pretty simple. Skeptics just argue that concepts like subtle energy fields or nadis and chakras,
The things she says are being activated.
right, they argue there's just no empirical scientific evidence that these things exist as described in the sources.
And that leads directly into how the system views illness, doesn't it? What's the connection between disease and that offline circuitry?
Morter teaches that disease is a placeholder. It's your soulful self trying to get your mind's attention, pointing to an energy gap or a circuit that's gone offline.
So your body's not failing, it's giving you feedback.
Exactly. But critics say that this massively oversimplifies what causes disease. Established medical science shows it's a complex mix of genetics, pathogens, environment, not just an energy gap.
Let's look at one more specific practice, the chemistry code. What's the advice there?
That code is all about maintaining an alkaline state in the body, mostly through diet. The claim is that high acidity blocks healing and energy flow, so you get a lot of guidance on eating alkaline foods.
Doesn't the body regulate its own pH very, very tightly?
Yeah.
What does nutritional science say about that?
Nutritional science often disputes this. Our bodies have incredibly powerful homeostatic mechanisms, especially in our blood, to keep our pH in a very narrow range. The critique is that if your diet actually did significantly change your blood pH, you wouldn't be healing, you'd be in the emergency room. So while the foods might be healthy, the proposed mechanism is scientifically questionable.
Okay, and just to bring it all back to the body, what about that breath code? You mentioned the locks.
Right. The breathing is often paired with physical locks to create a channel for the energy. We mentioned the root lock and the pineal activation. There's also the squeeze the heart, which engages the diaphragm, and constrict the throat, which stimulates the thyroid area. Those 4 points are meant to create a physical column for the spirit to integrate into the body.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. We've seen a system for deep self-transformation, a 7-step path to move from victimhood to creatorship.
A path that uses really specific language and very concrete physical practices.
But we've also seen the serious critical lens applied to it. challenging the very foundations of its energy physics and, more importantly, the social implications of its philosophy on trauma, choice, and privilege.
Yeah, the core tension really is between this empowering idea of taking control of your inner world, your embodiment, and the risk that comes with saying that terrible external events were somehow cosmically chosen for you.
And having this knowledge is about understanding that whole landscape. Whether you find the idea of the soulful self to be a useful psychological tool, or you find the social critiques to be essential, you're now informed about both the system and the intense discourse around it. So here's a final thought for you to take away. If the protective personality is rooted in fear and separation, how might your life change if you just acknowledge that inner protective part of you without trying to flip it or fix it, and simply change your approach to safety and vulnerability?